Good morning, everyone. Sir, can you hear me? Am I audible, sir? Hello. So please let me know if I'm audible. Okay, sir. Thank you. Yes. So here we are back again. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to our virtual classroom. This is second part of your lecture. My name is Professor Kashinath Patil from Junior College Teacher, Deccan Education Society's Brihan Maharashtra College of Commerce, Pune. Dear students, our subject today is Yog Bharati English of Standard 11. In our previous lecture, we had started with the topic from section 1 of your English course book, which was a prose lesson 1.3, The Call of the Soil, A Scent of Rice, written by the author Venkat Iyer. And today, we are going to study the remaining part of the lesson, that is, second part of the lesson. So you can open your English course books on page number 28 to refer to the original text. We shall continue from the last paragraph of your page number 28. So before we go and begin with the actual text, with the next paragraph, let us have a recapitulation of what we had studied in our previous lecture, which was your first part of this lesson. Let me share my screen with you. Dear students, in our previous lecture, we had seen how a techie-turned farmer starts his organic farming practices, the difficulties he met in the beginning, and his experience of the first moong crop. We have also studied how the author opposes the practice of using chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides on his crops, which he was advised in the beginning. We also studied how the author makes us aware of the numerous disadvantages of the hybrid variety of crops and that he is a staunch supporter of the traditional desi variety of seeds, which only proves his true love and respect for our Mother Earth, our farming land. So today we shall continue with the next part of the lesson. I hope my screen is visible. Yes. So we shall continue from the last para of your page number 28. You can refer to the original text now. The tales of Kasbai made us more determined to get it. We decided that if we did manage to get some seeds, this would be a great rice to grow. I thought the government may know something about it. A visit to the agricultural officer was enlightening. He had not even heard of this rice variety. He said the villagers were taking me for a ride and there was no such rice by this name. He rattled off the names of a number of latest hybrids and even offered to give me some of them free of cost for a trial. Cursing myself for wasting my time with him, I moved on to the next destination. In this paragraph, the author makes us aware, the author lets us know that when he heard the tales of Kasbai and how important that Kasbai is for the author, it made him more determined, more firm. He made a decision that at any cost he will find this rice and these seeds and he will sow this rice in these fields. So therefore he decided that he will manage it somehow from the area. So he thought of visiting a government officer, and therefore he visits an agricultural officer, but the visit proves to be enlightening. If you see the meaning of enlightening here, it means it gives something which gives you greater knowledge and understanding. But here, this word enlightening has been used by the author ironically. Here, this visit of the author to this agricultural officer proves to be totally in vain, unfruitful, because the agricultural officer himself did not know anything of this particular variety of rice. He had not even heard the name of this rice variety. Forget about knowing much about it. So he said the villagers were taking me for a ride. On the contrary, he told the author that the villagers were taking the author for a ride. To take someone for a ride means to misguide someone, to give someone a wrong advice. That's what he told the author. And there was no such rice by this name. And then he rattled off the names of many other latest hybrid varieties. Here, rattled off means talk rapidly and at length. म्हणजे त्याने अशी भरपूर बडबड केली आणि बऱ्याचशा विविध जातींच्या राईसची त्याने माहिती दिली किंवा त्याने त्यांना उद्युक्त केलं की तुम्ही ह्या प्रकारच्या राईसची पेरणी करा म्हणून. But the author was quite firm on this particular variety. The officer even offered to give him some free of cost sampling for a trial. But then the author feels frustrated with this visit and he curses himself for wasting his time with this officer. He cursed himself, isn't it? He blamed himself for wasting his time with this officer. And then finally, he moved on to his next destination. Now, what was his next destination? We will see it in the next para. This time, it was the Adivasi Mahamandal at Kasa, which buys rice from the Adivasi villagers on behalf of the government. Kasbai did not figure in their files too. A good indication why people did not grow it anymore. The market itself did not recognize the rice. So if you grew it, you would not be able to sell it. However, the officer in charge here had more knowledge of rice and did remember Kasbai being sold to him a few years ago. This time, the author ends up visiting one Adivasi Mahamandal, which was in Kasa village. And this Mahamandal generally buys rice from the Adivasi villagers on behalf of the government. But here, again, the author comes to know that Kasbai did not figure in their records too. Even they did not know about this particular variety of rice. Therefore, the author comes to a conclusion that it's a very good indication as to why people did not grow this particular rice anywhere in that particular area. When the market itself did not recognize this rice, how can you sell it even if you grow this rice? म्हणजे जर पिकून सुद्धा जर हा राईस विकलाच गेला नाही मार्केटमध्ये तर त्याला पिकवण्याचा प्रश्नच येत नाही. Therefore, the author comes to this generalization. However, the officer in charge here had some little bit more knowledge about this rice and he remembers that it was being sold here few years ago, but not now. Let us go to the next slide. Next para is on page number 29. So when I in Dhanivari, Baban and I started looking for Devu Honda. So when in Dhanivari, Baban and I started looking for Devuhanda and found a graying old man wearing a cap sitting outside his house on a charpoy. He was an ex-sarpanch of the village and he had acres of land, a huge house and a large family. After exchanging the usual pleasantries, we came to the topic of Kasbai. The mere mention of Kasbai and Devuhanda drifted into the past. His eyes turned dreamy, and with a tremble in his voice, he told us how the entire village at one time grieved only Kasbai. He said there was a time when people passing our village during lunchtime would be forced to stop and ask for a meal. Such was the alluring aroma of Kasbai. The entire area would have this heady aroma hanging in the air as all the houses cooked the same rice. Today, he said, no one grew kasbai and everyone had shifted to growing the new hybrid varieties. He claimed he had to force himself to eat this rice that was so insipid. So, in his further journey, the author lands in a new village, Dhanirwari. Here, with the help of Baban, a local assistant, he started looking for Devu Handa. He wanted to meet a person who was the ex-sarpanch of that particular village. He was a graying old man, a very aged man, wearing a cap, and he was sitting outside on his charpoy. Yes, this person had acres of land and a huge house and a large family. After exchanging the usual pleasantries with this fellow, we came to the topic of Kasbai. Pleasantries here means the pleasant remarks made to be polite in the beginning of your conversation. After he exchanges these polite remarks with this farmer, Devuhanda, he mentions about his purpose, why he had come there. He mentions the topic of Kasbai. So this mere mention of Kasbai made Devuhanda nostalgic. He went to his past memories and he fondly recollects his past memories about this particular rice because he used to grow this rice a few years back. Therefore, his eyes turned dreamy with the thought of this rice. आपल्या डोळ्यांमध्ये पुन्हा एकदा त्याचं चित्र कसबाई राईसचं चित्र उभं राहतं आणि देवहांडा हा नॉस्टॅल्जिक होतो. तो भूतकाळात रममाण होतो. And with the tremble in his voice, he told us how the entire village at one time gave only this kind of rice and nothing else. म्हणजे एकेकाळी अशी एक वेळ होती की संपूर्ण विलेज फक्त कसबाई राईस पेरणी तिथे करत होते. पण आता एकही शेतकरी, not a single village, not a single farmer in that particular village grows this kind of rice. He says there was a time when people passing our village during lunchtime would be forced to stop. The moment they could smell this alluring aroma of kasbai. Such was its alluring aroma. Alluring aroma means a very attractive and a pleasant smell. एवढा सुंदर सुवास किंवा स्मेल त्या पर्टिक्युलर राईसचा होता. जो कोणी हा सुवास घेईल तो तिथे थांबायचा आणि अक्षरशः तिथे जेवण करायला त्याची इच्छा व्हायची त्या खेड्यामध्ये. दिस एंटायर एरिया वुड हॅव दिस हेडी अरोमा हँगिंग इन द एअर. कारण प्रत्येकाच्या घरात हाच भात होत असे स्वयंपाकाच्या वेळेस. Because all the houses cook the same rice. And today, he said, no one grieved kasbai and everyone had shifted to growing the new hybrid varieties. The entire village had shifted to the hybrid varieties today. Therefore, he says he claimed he had to force himself to eat this rice that was so insipid. Insipid means which lacks flavor, which is very weak in taste, or we can simply call it tasteless. किंवा किती बेचव हा नवीन प्रकारचा जो हायब्रिड राईस आहे तो खायला तो भाग पडतो आहे कारण की कोणीही कसबाई राईस त्या विलेज मध्ये पिकवत नाही. Isn't it? So let us see the activities on this part of the extract. The activities that can be said on this particular part of the extract is that list the reactions of the agricultural officer to the author's inquiry about kasbai seeds. म्हणजे the officer whom the author met, what was his reaction about the kasbai seeds? The government officer, the answer is this: the government officer in the beginning told the author that the villagers were deceiving him, they were taking him for a ride or they were misguiding him. He also told him that there was no such a rice by this name because he himself had not heard of Kasbai. And then the officer rattled off the names of number of other hybrid varieties, and he did not stop there only, but he even offered to give the author some of the hybrid seeds free of cost for a trial. So that is the answer of this particular question. You can be asked one more activity on this particular piece of writing, that how was the reaction of Devuhanda after hearing the name of Kasbai? We can say his eyes turned dreamy with the mere mention of this particular rice, and there was a tremble in his voice. He told the author how the entire village at one time grew only Kasbai rice. He also told him that people passing over from the village during lunch, such was its alluring aroma or pleasant smell. The entire area would have this heady smell hanging around in the air, and he had to force himself now to eat the hybrid variety of rice, which is very, very insipid. So these are the activities that can be asked to you on this particular piece of extract. Let us go to the next extract on our next screen. With the advent of irrigation, farmers were tempted to grow a second crop, and Kasbai, being a long duration rice, was replaced by the shorter duration hybrids so that the harvest could be done earlier. This ensured that the farmers could take up a second crop. I asked why he had shifted if he was so unhappy with the hybrids. No one forced him, did they? He smiled and replied that their fields did not have fences, and once the harvest was over, the cattle were released into the fields. If my field alone has Kasbai, it will be a treat for the cattle, he explained. Now, in this paragraph, the person, the ex-sarpanch from that village, gives him, additional information about why he had stopped growing that Kasbai rice in that particular village. He tells him the different reasons. He says, with the advent of irrigation, with the beginning or the invention of the irrigation, or with the advancement of the irrigation facilities for the farmers were tempted to grow a second crop. The farmers wanted to grow second crop in their field, and since Kasbai was a long duration rice, it was not possible for the farmers to take a second crop. Therefore, they got it replaced by another short duration variety of rice, and that was a hybrid variety. म्हणजे या संकरित वाणाची जेव्हा त्यांनी लागवड केली, पेरणी केली, which was a short term variety, shorter duration, तो कमी कालावधीमध्ये येणारा तो पर्टिक्युलर व्हरायटी होती ती, आणि त्याच्यामुळे त्यांनी हा जो लॉंग ड्युरेशनचा राईस होता त्याची लागवड करणं बंद केलं. There, so that they can take the second harvest. This ensured that the farmers could take the second crop. दुसरं पीक त्यांना घेता येईल म्हणून त्यांनी ह्या पर्टिक्युलर राईसला याची पेरणी बंद केली. I asked why he had shifted if he was not so happy with this particular hybrids. जेव्हा देवहंडाला यांनी हा प्रश्न विचारला की जर तुम्हाला हा राईस आवडत नव्हता, forget about other farmers, why did you stop sowing that particular rice? No one had forced him. कोणी त्यांना बळजबरी केलेली नव्हती. Then he smiled and replied that their fields did not have fences. त्यांच्या कोणाच्याही शेताला कुंपण वगैरे नव्हते. There was no protection to the fields. Generally, we don't have fences in our, if you see the agricultural land, we don't have fences to our land, isn't it? And if the harvest was done, once the harvest is over, the cattle from the village were released free into the fields to graze. ती जी जनावरं तुम्ही बघताय तिथे पिक्चर मध्ये, सगळे गुरुढोरं खेड्यातली सगळी मोकाट असतात, इकडे तिकडे फिरायला चरायला सुटलेली. And if the field did not have fence, what would happen with this particular field which has Kasbai rice, since it's a long duration crop? He says, if my field alone has Kasbai, it will be a big treat for the cattle, he explained. म्हणजे फक्त जर माझ्याच शेतात हे पीक उभं असेल तर it will be a treat. Treat म्हणजे काय? Something special for enjoyment. एक मेजवानी ठरेल ती ह्या सगळ्या गुराढोरांसाठी. And it will be a loss to the farmer. And therefore, he was forced to stop growing this particular rice. Let us go to the next para. He says, sometimes We have to fall in line with the community, he lamented. Hybrids need more water, they need more fertilizers, and they need more pesticides. He said that yields were good initially, but of late had reduced a lot. Besides, he said that each year they had to increase the quantity of urea and pesticides they used. It was as if the newer hybrids had an insatiable appetite for chemicals. He told us that even when there were flash floods in the 60s, Kasbai had stood its ground firmly. He fondly remembered how the rice was still standing when they all returned to the village after the floods had receded. Such was the strength of the rice. But look what we have done, he rued. So in this paragraph, he gives extra information about that particular rice, and he also feels very sad, very unhappy over the loss of that precious variety of rice. He says sometimes we have to fall in line with the community. We have to fall in line, means we have to follow the rules. We have to adjust with the community with which we live. No? Even Handa had to adjust with the other farmers of the village. He had to fall in line. He had to go with the flow. He says this lamentably. He lamented, means he expresses his sorrow, his regret over the loss of this precious variety. त्यांना सुद्धा खूप वाईट वाटतं. He says hybrids need more water, more fertilizers, and more pesticides as opposed to the desi varieties, the traditional varieties. There are many disadvantages which he goes on giving here in this particular para. Hybrids need more water, more fertilizers, and more pesticides as if they have that insatiable appetite. Insatiable म्हणजे काय? Which cannot be satisfied. कधीही न शमणारी अशी त्यांची ती भूक असते केमिकल्ससाठी. They require more and more chemicals, more fertilizers, more water, which is generally not good in the long course of time. Even though the yields were good in the beginning, but of late they had reduced a lot. सुरुवातीला उत्पन्न चांगलं होतं हायब्रिड्सनं, पण over a period of time it has gone down. हे उत्पन्न आता हळूहळू घटत चाललेलं आहे, ते म्हणतात. And besides, he said that each year they had to increase the quantity of the urea, as you can see in the picture. युरिया त्यांना जास्त प्रमाणात पिकांना द्यावा लागत होता. It was as if the newer hybrids had an insatiable appetite for the chemicals. And he told us that even when there were flash floods in the 60s, एकदा एक सडन असा फ्लॅश फ्लड सुद्धा तिथे आला होता त्यांच्या गावामध्ये, अचानक पूर आला होता. But this particular variety of Kasbai rice had stood its ground firmly. It did not suffer the damage. He fondly remembered how the rice was still standing when they all returned to the village after the floods had receded. When all the villagers came back to the village, they found that this particular variety of rice was still firmly on the ground. It did not suffer the damage of the floods. Such was its strength. But look what we have done today. Devuhanda regrets here bitterly over the loss of this precious variety. Let us go to the next para. As he went on reminiscing about the rice, we gently guided him back to the reason for our visit, the Kasbai seeds. He was sure that there was not a single villager in this area who would have the seeds of Kasbai. According to him, the only people who still grew it were the Adivasis in a hamlet at the foothills of the mountains in the next village, Asarvari. We bid farewell to Devuhanda, who lovingly blessed us and said, Mahalakshmi, the local goddess, will give you the seeds of Kasbai. In the next para, Devuhanda goes on reminiscing about the rice. Reminiscing, it means remembering a story about the past events. He again fondly remembers few more memories of this particular rice. And then the author gently guided him back to the reason as to why they had reached that particular village. ते कोणत्या उद्देशासाठी तिथे आलेले आहेत हे जेव्हा ते त्यांना सांगतात, ते म्हणतात, he was sure that there was not a single villager in this area who would have the seeds of Kasbai. कुठल्याही विलेजरकडे कसबाई सीड्स असण्याची कुठलीही शक्यता तिथे नाही असं त्यांनी माहिती दिली त्यांना. And according to him, the only people who still grew it were the Adivasis in a hamlet at the foothills of the mountains in the next village called Asarvari. तिथून पुढे काही अंतरावर एक विलेज होतं. The name of the village was Asarvari, which was a hamlet. Hamlet means It's a very small village. It's a very small settlement. आपण त्याला पाडा म्हणतो, पाडा मराठीमध्ये. काही घरांचा ते समूह असतो, isn't it? So that was hamlet at the foothills of the mountains. एका माउंटेनच्या पायथ्याशी, the next village of असरवारी. आणि हे ऐकल्यानंतर, ही माहिती मिळाल्यानंतर, the author bid farewell to Devuhanda. He said goodbye to him and went on to his next journey. After saying goodbye to Devuhanda, Devuhanda lovingly blessed us and said, Mahalakshmi, the local goddess, तिथली जी कुलदेवता होती महालक्ष्मी, ती तुम्हाला नक्कीच कसबाईचे सीट्स मिळवून देईल, isn't it? And then he goes on his further journey. See the next para. In Asarwari village, we asked the Sarpanch to help us as we were not very fluent with the local dialect. He sent his assistant Jeevan with us into the hills. After a half an hour walk through thick vegetation, crossing numerous streams and ditches, and scrambling over the rocks and gravel, we reached the sleepy hamlet of Boripada. There were just 2 ramshackle houses in front of us, and we were wondered if this was the right place. When the author reaches this village, Asarwari village, they had to ask a local help from the Sarpanch, because they were not very fluent with the local dialect. Local dialect means a language that is spoken in that particular area. तिथली स्थानिक बोली भाषा, तिला आपण लोकल डायलेक्ट म्हणतो. त्या आदिवासी लोकांची जी बोली भाषा होती, the author was not well versed or well fluent with that particular language, so he had to take help of a local person whose name was Jeevan, an assistant. He took him with him, and then he went into the hills, at the foothills of the mountain. It was a half an hour walk, and through this walk, when they were having this walk, they had to cross through thick vegetation, घनदाट झाडी, crossing numerous streams, भरपूर नाले एवढे त्यांना रस्त्यामध्ये लागले, ditches, and scrambling over the rocks and gravel. And then finally, they reached the sleepy hamlet of Boripada, isn't it? त्या डोंगर पायथ्याशी असलेल्या लहानशा खेड्यामध्ये ते अजूनही लोक हे पीक घेतात. आणि तिथे ते कसे तरी पोहोचले. Somehow they managed to reach this hamlet of Boripada. There were just 2 ramshackle houses in front of them. Ramshackle houses, you can see in the picture. Ramshackle means the houses were in a state of severe disrepair. संपूर्णपणे मोडकळीस आलेले, they were beyond repair. Such houses were there in front of them, and the author really wondered if this was the right place. आपण योग्य ठिकाणी आलो आहोत का, अशी एक शंका त्यांच्या मनात उत्पन्न झाली, त्यावेळेस निर्माण झाली, isn't it? Let us go to the next para. Here he saw a wrinkled old woman sitting before one of the houses, looked at us with curiosity. As we approached her, we signaled to Jeevan to ask the crucial question to the lady. And then she muttered in reply, and we looked at Jeevan for a quick interpretation. He broke into a smile and informed us that she did have the rice and wanted to know who we were and why we wanted it. तिथे पोहोचल्यानंतर he saw one aged lady, a wrinkled old woman sitting next to them. She was sitting there before one of the houses, looked at us with curiosity. The woman was equally eager and curious to look at these strangers. And when the author approached the lady, he signaled his assistant Jeevan to ask the lady the crucial question, the extremely important question, the purpose why they have reached there. ते तिथे कशासाठी आलेले आहेत किंवा त्यांना काय हवं आहे हे विचारण्यासाठी त्याने जीवनला सांगितलं. And then Jeevan asks the lady in the local dialect, and on which the lady muttered to him, gave him a reply. And then, to understand that reply, the author looked at Jeevan for a quick interpretation, अर्थ समजून घेण्यासाठी. And then Jeevan broke into a smile. There was a smile on Jeevan's face, which informed us, which made us understand that she did have the rice. Finally, the author found this particular rice at this woman's place. The rice was available with her, and even she wanted to know who these people were and why they wanted this particular rice. The woman was equally curious of these people's visit over there. Let us see the next para. The author becomes very joyous, very happy to hear that particular news from Jeevan. It was a difficult task to keep a straight face, and I had to control a strong desire to hug her. The author felt so happy. After searching for months, we had found the elusive kasbai. We explained to her that we were from the pit nearby and we needed the seeds to grow it. We asked for 10 kilograms of rice. She muttered and scowled. Jivan interpreted that she had never heard of pet village and also did not have the weighing scale. She was willing to give the seeds only in baskets. We asked for a single basket of rice, and Jivan told us to pay her something. And then I handed over a 100 rupee note, and for the first time in the last 10 minutes, her face broke into a smile. She nodded her head in approval. So in this para, we come to know how the author felt joyous and very happy to come to know that the woman had that particular variety of rice. Therefore, the author says it was very difficult for him to keep a straight face. He was feeling so joyous and happy, as if he wanted to hug the lady for that good news. Because after months of search, finally, the author becomes successful to find that elusive variety of kasbai rice. Elusive means which is very, very difficult to find, as if it had become extinct for the author. But somehow, finally, he manages to obtain it from this lady. And then they finally explained to the lady as to where they had come from, that they had come from a pet village nearby. They mentioned the name of the village pet, and that they needed the seeds of kasbai rice to grow it in their farm. And they asked for 10 kilograms of rice, on which she muttered and scowled. Scowled means here, like it's contracting the brow in an expression of displeasure or frown or kind of surprise. And when Jivan interpreted as to why she scowled, because that she had never heard of pet village before. Even though pet village was in the vicinity of that particular village, she did not know where this village was because she had never heard of this village. And also that she did not have a weighing scale to give them the 10 kilograms of rice exactly. So she was willing to give them the seeds only in the baskets which were available with her. We asked for a single basket of rice and Jivan told us to pay her something. जीवन ने सांगितलं की तुम्ही त्याचा मोबदला तिला देऊन टाका म्हणून. Then the author handed over a 100 rupee note for the first time to the lady, and for the first time in the last 10 minutes her face broke into smile. तिच्या चेहऱ्यावर एक स्मित हास्य आलं. Probably she must have seen this 100 rupee note after many days. She gets a very good realization for this amount of rice, and for which she becomes very happy. When her face broke into a smile, she nodded her head in approval, in acceptance, as if she was happy with this offer. And finally, she gives them the rice. Now we are coming to the concluding part of the lesson in the next para. The author says, as we walked back against the fading sunset, leaving behind a smiling old lady, I couldn't help but wonder that here, nestling in the foothills of an unknown mountain, away from the hustle and bustle of the road or the city, were the real people of India. These were the people who still held on to the rich biodiversity of our land, and no one even cared about them. They had never heard of hybrids, fertilizers, or pesticides. They just grew their rice and ate what they got. The old lady we met had probably never left Boripada. Her world was unspoilt by the progress, and for once I was grateful for that. In this concluding part of the extract, the author makes us aware that when he was walking back from the village, from that Adivasi hamlet, it was the sunset time. And when he left behind this smiling old lady, he says, I couldn't help but wonder that here in the foothills of this unknown mountain, which is very, very away from the hustle and bustle of the road or the city. हे असं एक हॅमलेट आहे, असं एक गाव आहे, छोटंसं विलेज आहे आदिवासींचं, जे पूर्णपणे दूर आहे त्या शहराच्या गोंगाटापासून, गलबलाटापासून, हसल अँड बसल. मीन्स अ ग्रेट अमाउंट ऑफ ऍक्टिव्हिटी, मूवमेंट, लॉट ऑफ नॉइझी एन्व्हायरमेंट, त्याच्यापासून खूप लांबवर हे आहे. इट इज द रिअल पीपल ऑफ इंडिया हू लिव्ह हिअर. हे खरेखुरे आदिवासी आहेत भारताचे खरेखुरे लोक जे इथे राहतात, and these were the people who are still holding on to the rich biodiversity of our land. That's what the author realizes at this point of time. A rich biodiversity. You can see the glossary entry. Biodiversity is the shortened form of two words, biological diversity. It refers to all the variety of life that can be found on the earth, which includes plants, animals, the fungi and microorganisms, as well as to the communities that they form and the habitats in which they live. ही जी विविधता आहे, जैव विविधता, ही ज्यांच्यामुळे टिकून आहे आज सुद्धा, त्याचं क्रेडिट largely goes to these Adivasi people, according to the author. त्यांच्यामुळे ही आज सुद्धा टिकून आहे. Because these people were very real people, genuine people. They were free from all the artificialities of this modern day world, who we call it as the advanced world or modern world. They had never heard of hybrids, fertilizers or pesticides which are being used by the modern day farmers. हे त्यांच्या गावीही नाहीये या सगळ्या गोष्टी. कुठले हायब्रिड्स त्यांना माहिती नाही, कुठले फर्टिलायझर्स किंवा कुठले पेस्टिसाइड्स, हार्मफुल केमिकल्स त्यांना माहिती नाहीये. They just grew their rice and they were happy with whatever produce, whatever yield they get from their fields. This old lady whom the author meets on his journey, she had never probably left this hamlet of Boripada. Her world was very small and it was very unspoiled by this so-called progress of modern day world. जिला आपण सो कॉल्ड प्रोग्रेस म्हणतो, हिच्यापासून तिचं जग जे होतं ते फार लांब होतं, अनटच्ड होतं, प्युअर होतं, अनस्पॉइल्ड होतं. अँड फॉर वन्स आय वॉज व्हेरी मच ग्रेटफुल फॉर दॅट. आणि त्यासाठी ऑथर त्याची कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करतो. So here we come to the end of this particular text. Let us see a few more activities that can be asked to you on the basis of this particular piece of extract. Explain the meaning of the line, her world was unspoiled by progress, and for once I was grateful for that. We can explain this line in the following manner. Here the author feels what people call progress, like using hybrid seeds or pesticides as against the traditional variety, and using chemical fertilizers and pesticides, which is only ruining or spoiling the soil and leading to a loss of biodiversity. This will ultimately lead to barren lands and global warming and a very big damage to the ecosystem. And therefore, the author feels very much grateful, thankful for people like the old woman from the Adivasi hamlet who are still holding on to the traditional ways, and they are conserving unknowingly the rich biodiversity of our land. So this can be the activity that can be asked on this particular piece of. Yes. The author also calls the people of Boripada the real people of India. Explain the reason. The author called the people of Boripada the real people of India because they were the people who are still holding on to the rich biodiversity of our land, and the credit goes largely to these people. So with the next slide, we are going to see a few more. Yes, here is a small video of the author, Venkat Iyer, in which he is explaining his own journey in his own words. Let us have a look at this particular video.
What is life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep or cows. Hi, my name is Venkat, also known as Ravi to friends. I am an IT professional, born and brought up in Mumbai and educated in Mumbai and also worked in Mumbai. I worked for 17 years in the IT industry. My last job was with IBM as a project manager. Well, at the farm right now, and I have my wife with me, Meena. We have Pepper, our dog, Whitey and Minnie, the cats, Whittle, Puke and Roger, the rabbits, a lot of hens and hundreds of trees, and that's a large family we have right now. I was doing well in IBM. We had a small house. Our sleepy lane in Goregaon was suddenly becoming very crowded. Those call centers, and the city was becoming unbearable. I was looking for a change in my lifestyle. Well, we like to hike and trek, both Meena and me. So it all started off by looking for a small piece of land, like a weekend getaway. So we just have a small house, and we start living there. Around this time, Meena, who was a freelance journalist, was doing a research for writing a book on cotton. So as part of her research, she used to go and stay with the farmers in various villages in various states of India. And she used to come back and narrate these stories about the lives of the farmers, how they lived, what houses they had. And I was quite fascinated. Being a Mumbaikar and never seen a village, I was like really fascinated by these stories. One day, after one of her trips, when we were discussing rural economy at home, I just popped a question to her and said, "What do you think if I became a farmer?" She said, "Yeah, why not?" So that was the turning point, and the seed was sown that I will quit my corporate job, leave the city, and become a farmer. At the farm, we grow everything organically. We do not use any chemicals, pesticides, or external inputs. And we basically grow all the stuff that we eat. Like I have 2 varieties of rice, all kinds of pulses, oil, spices, and seasonal vegetables. Like for example, right now we have some gajar which is growing in our field, and that takes care of our salad for right now. And we have we have a lot of fruit trees. I got about 5 varieties of mango, chiku, 3 varieties of guava, and passion fruit, mulberry, and cashew, lot of fruits. And spices, we have got lemongrass, basil, pepper, turmeric. I grow my own turmeric. So it more or less takes care of our kitchen. And whatever is excess, I generally sell it off in Bombay, either to shops or to friends, acquaintances who buy from me. Frankly, it all started off after I quit IBM. My friends in IBM used to say, "Okay, what are you up to? What are you doing? This farming, organic. So keep us updated." So I started sending out little emails every month or bi-monthly, depending on what's happening at the farm. Few of these people came back to me and they said, "It's so interesting and so wonderful, your experiences. Why don't you compile it into a book?" And much later in 2017, my experiences had increased at the farm, and the events and the anecdotes, they were different. So I decided to revisit the book, and I enhanced it, and I added a lot of information which was there over the last years after I had written the draft, and that gave birth to this book, Moong over Microchips. Now, it says Adventures of a Techie Turned Farmer. That was the thing they decided, and the title was decided by me because the first crop that I got was moong or green gram. So that's why the title is Moong over Microchips, because I quit IBM Microchips and I went into moong. So that's the story of Moong over Microchips. And incidentally, there is a story on the cover also. If you actually touch the cover, you will feel as if it is the keyboard of a computer. So that's how they've designed it. So it's a very nice design, and I hope the contents also are nice.
Well, let us see a few more activities from the brainstorming section. Now that we have seen the story of the author in his own words, let us go through a few more textual activities in your brainstorming section. See the first activity, read the extract and state whether the following statements are true or false and correct the false ones. In which the first is, growing in abundance is more important than the quality of the crop. The answer is of course false, because growing in abundance is not more important than the quality of the crop. What is more important is the quality of the crop and not growing in abundance. The second is, the author wanted to grow the Desi variety of rice, and that is true. Third is, the author did not succeed in finding kasbai, which is false. The author finally found or became successful in finding kasbai. Fourth is, the aroma of the Desi rice would spread around the village. That is true. Fifth one, newer hybrids, newer hybrid crops have a great appetite for chemicals. That is also true. And finally, the last one is, the author is an example of reverse migration. That is also true. Let us go to the next activity on page number 32 of your text in the brainstorming section. The next one is, complete the flow chart and consider this as an example of note making. We have to complete this chart about the journey of the discovery of kasbai rice. So it starts in the month of April 2005 that the author started his search for kasbai rice. What happens next is there on your screen. He spoke to Baban's father, some other elders, and even the agricultural officer, but didn't yield any results. The next thing was that he met Devu Handa and heard all about kasbai rice. The next, he met the Sarpanch in Asarwari village and took Jeevan along with him. And finally, he bought kasbai rice from an Adivasi woman in the remote area. So this is the journey of the discovery of kasbai rice in the present text. Next activity, read the text and fill in the blanks. One is done for you. The author wanted to grow organic moong. Second is, Muru Dada wanted to spray dash dash on the moong crop. He wanted to spray the pesticides. See, Baban's father and some elders mentioned the name of dash dash. They mentioned the name of kasbai rice. Hybrids need more dot dot, said Devu Handa. What do they need more? Hybrids need more water, fertilizers, and pesticides. Next one is, the author bought dash dash of rice from an Adivasi woman who lived in remote hills. The answer is 10 kilos of rice from an Adivasi woman who lived in remote hills. The next activity is, list the reactions of the agricultural officer to the author's inquiry about kasbai rice. One is done for you. That he had not heard of kasbai. He uttered the names of latest hybrids, and that he also offered to give him some hybrid seeds free of cost. Next activity is, go through the text once again and note down Devu Handa's fond memories of kasbai in your exercise book. One is done for you. That Devu Handa has fond memories of kasbai. They are as follows: that it needs less rain, it has an alluring aroma, and it is a long duration rice. The next activity is, the writer says he grew an awful lot of moong. Explain the word awful in this context. In this context, the word awful means in large amount or in large quantity or in abundance. The word scent is different from its synonyms aroma, fragrance, or perfume. Explain how the word scent in the subtitle scent of the rice has deeper meaning than perfume or fragrance. Here the word scent in the title scent of rice carries a feeling within itself. It suggests a sense of belongingness. Also, it refers to the tracing of smell, and hence it is different from its synonyms perfume or fragrance in this particular context. We have some phrases here having similar meaning from the following. So we have to tick the phrases, those phrases having similar meaning from the following. First is in pursuit of, next is to smell a rat, C, to be keen, B, on the trail of, E, to feel under the weather. So here the two phrases that have similar meanings are, one is in pursuit of, and the other one is on the trail of. Both of them share the same meaning. The next activity is planting and growing more crops a year seems to be progress by normal standards, but the chapter makes a case against it. Give reasons. According to normal standards, growing more crops a year is indeed progressive, but the chapter makes a case against it because in the name of progress, we are being fed hybrid crops and adulterated food items. We are inching towards illnesses and poor health with these pesticide-infested products and artificial agricultural enhancers, which is only going to lead to health issues and risks. Yes, so we have dealt with almost all kinds of activities, namely global understanding, complex factual, inference or interpretative type of activities, personal response type of activities, language study, and vocabulary. So here we have completed this text. Students, here I will stop sharing this screen with you. So here in this particular text, we have seen the journey of a techie turned farmer, Venkat Iyer. I want you to go through the remaining activities from your text and solve them on your own. Thank you everyone for attending my lecture. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Uma madam,
Yes, sir.
madam you can start.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Miss Uma Vishwanath Gaikwad, teacher of economics in Deccan Education Societies, KTM Dungursi College, Dadar West, Mumbai. Yesterday, children, we have learned some basic concepts of microeconomics, right? So today we are going to learn about the economic activities, which was the last concept of microeconomics. Economic activities, while learning the economic activities, we have learned the four major concepts of product, we can say economic activities, such as production, distribution, exchange, right, etc. Now today we are going to learn more about the production. Wait a minute. Okay, let's start. Just recall the last lecture. In the last lecture, children, we have learned about the wealth. Wealth is refers to anything which has market value and can be exchanged for money. Okay, then we have seen some characteristics of wealth such as utility, scarcity, transferability, and externality. Then personal income, personal disposable income, economic activity. While learning the economic activity, we have seen the four major concepts of the four major types of economic activities such as production, distribution, exchange, and consumption. These are the economic activities. Today we are going to learn about more the factors of production. Okay, as I said earlier in the production, about the production, production is the creation of utilities. Okay, so while creation of utilities, there are four major factors of production are very important, such as land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So what we know about the production? Production of goods and services requires the use of factors of production. One more time. Production of goods and services requires the use of factors of production. And the factors of production are called as agents of production. The volume of production depends on availability of factors of production and their productivity. The factors of production broadly classified into four groups. First one, land. Second one, labor. Third one, capital. Fourth one, entrepreneur. Come to the first major factor of production, that is land. So before start the factors of production, I would like to tell the meaning of factors of production. What we know the word factors of production? Factors of production are the factors. Those helps the producer in the process of production. They are said to be factors of production. In economics, there are four major factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. In Marathi, we can say श्रम, भूमी, श्रम, भांडवल आणि संयोजक हे उत्पादनाचे प्रमुख चार घटक आहेत. सो लेट स्टार्ट विथ द फर्स्ट वन, लँड. आता लँड म्हणजे काय, तर इन ऑर्डिनरी सेन्स और इन जनरल सेन्स लँड रेफर्स टू सरफेस ऑफ द अर्थ. बट इन इकॉनॉमिक सेन्स लँड includes all kinds of natural resources which are available on, above and under the surface of the earth. Okay, one more time. In ordinary sense, land refers to surface of the earth. But in economic sense, land includes all kinds of natural resources which are available on the earth, above the surface of the earth, on the surface of the earth, and under the surface of the earth. Okay, and land gets rent as a reward. Alfred Marshall defines the land as land refers to all material and forces which nature gives freely to man's aid in land, water, air, light and heat. सर्वसाधारणपणे भूमीचा अर्थ काय, तर जमिनीचा पृष्ठभाग. आता समजा एखादी बिल्डिंग असेल, सपोज इफ देर इज वन बिल्डिंग, वी कॅनॉट से every floor of the building is the land, but we can say the ground floor or the parking area will be the land, because in ordinary sense land refers to surface of the earth. सर्वसाधारणपणे भूमीचा अर्थ काय होतो, तर जमिनीचा पृष्ठभाग. ओके, पण अर्थशास्त्रामध्ये भूमी म्हणजे काय, तर जे काही नैसर्गिक साधन संपत्ती, जे काही नॅचरल रिसोर्सेस आपल्याला अवेलेबल दिसतात ऑन दी अर्थ, जमिनीवर, जमिनीच्या वर आणि जमिनीच्या खाली. जमिनीच्या वर म्हणजे आकाशामध्ये, जमिनीवर आणि जमिनीच्या खाली म्हणजे भूगर्भामध्ये. म्हणजे जमिनीच्या वर, जमिनीच्या खाली आणि जमिनीवर जे जे आपल्याला नैसर्गिक साधन संपत्ती अवलंबून आढळून आलेली दिसून येते, ती सर्व संपत्ती कशामध्ये समाविष्ट होते, तर लँड मध्ये समाविष्ट होते. सो ऑन द सरफेस ऑफ द अर्थ वी कॅन सी फार्मलँड, forest, mountains, water, etc. Okay. Below the surface of the earth, we can say coal, petroleum, iron ore, gold, silver, etc. Above the surface of the earth, air, light, and heat. Understood? So, in ordinary sense, land refers to surface of the earth, but in economics, land includes all kinds of natural resources which are available on the surface of the earth, above the surface of the earth, and below the surface of the earth. On the surface of the earth, we are getting farmland, forest, mountains, water, etc. Below the surface of the earth, we can get coal, petroleum, iron ore, gold, silver, etc. Above the surface of the earth, we can get air, light, and heat. And that's why we can say that land is a free gift of nature. Because we can say that land is a free gift of nature. It has been gifted by the nature to mankind to carry out all the productive activities. Land is not created with the human efforts. Land as a factors of production is not a man-made factor of production, but it is a free gift of nature. Or we can say that land is a permanent factor, land is a primary factor of production, land is passive factor of production. Okay, there is lack of geographical mobility, about the land. Land is having derived demand. Okay, so this is the about land. Come to the second major factor of production, that is labor. Okay, before start the labor, if the land is working, land is getting rent as a reward. जेव्हा एखादी जमीन कार्य करते, आपण आपली जमीन एखाद्याला आपण दुसऱ्याला यूज करायला देतो, तेव्हा तो व्यक्ती आपल्याला काय देतो त्याचा मोबदला, तर रेंट देतो. म्हणजेच काय देतो, तर आपल्याला भाडं, त्या जागेचं भाडं आपल्याला मिळतं, त्या जागेचा रेंट आपल्याला मिळतो. ओके, come to the second major factor of production, that is labor. What we know about the labor, children? Labor is the human effort, both physically also and mentally also, by the people belonging to working age group, which is used in the process of production, and land is paid remuneration in the forms of wages. Any human efforts for which a reward or remuneration is not received cannot be called labor, even if labor contributes to the productive activities in the economy. आपण असं म्हणूया की लेबर काय आहे, तर ह्युमन एफर्ट आहे. आपल्याला देर आर टू काइंड्स ऑफ लेबर अवेलेबल इन द मार्केट, स्किल लेबर्स अँड अनस्किल्ड लेबर. बोथ आर वर्किंग फिजिकली अँड मेंटली. They are using their human efforts and they belongings to working age group, which is used in the process of production, and as they are working, they are getting remuneration of their work. So what we know about this skill labor? Skill labors are the labors whose mental work is more and physical work is less. स्किल लेबर म्हणजे कौशल्यपूर्ण कारागीर, ज्यांचं काय असतं, बौद्धिक श्रम काय असतात, जास्त असतात आणि शारीरिक श्रम कमी असतात. अशा लेबर्सला काय म्हणायचं, तर स्किल लेबर, कुशल कारागीर. आणि अनस्किल लेबर म्हणजे काय, तर अकुशल कारागीर. त्याच्या अपोजिट काय, तर त्यांचं मेंटल वर्क काय असतं, कमी असतं आणि फिजिकल वर्क मोर असतं. दॅट काइंड ऑफ लेबर इज कॉल्ड ॲज अनस्किल लेबर. सो दो द लेबर इज skilled labor, though the labor is unskilled labor, while if they are using in the process of production, labor is paid a remuneration in the forms of wages. Okay, if any human efforts for which a reward or remuneration is not received, we cannot call them as a labor. Okay, even if labor contributes to the production activity in the economy. So we can say that labor is any exertion of mind or body which is undergone partly or wholly with a view to earn some goods other than pleasure directly derived from their work. One more time, labor is any exertion of mind or body. As I said, there are two kinds of labor, skilled labor and unskilled labor. Skilled laborers are exerting their mind and unskilled laborers are exerting their body. Okay, some are working partly, some are working wholly. It means that some laborers are working part-time, some laborers are working full-time. What is the view to view? Why people are working? Because they are having a view to earn something. काहीतरी त्यांना कमवायचं असतं. मग त्या कामामधनं त्यांना आनंद मिळो नाहीतर नाही मिळो, पण तरी पण दे आर एक्झर्टिंग देअर माइंड अँड बॉडी. ओके, विथ अ व्ह्यू टू अर्न सम गुड्स. त्यांना ते त्यांचं माइंड आणि बॉडी एक्झर्ट करतात, फिजिकली आणि मेंटली ते एक्झर्ट होतात, काम करतात आणि त्या कामापासून त्यांना मोबदला हवा असतो, भले त्यापासून त्यांना आनंद मिळेल किंवा नाही मिळेल. अशा व्यक्तीला काय म्हणायचं, लेबर असं म्हणायचं. आणि म्हणून फॉर एक्झाम्पल स्किल लेबर, डॉक्टर, टीचर, lawyers, etc. And unskilled labor, different kinds of construction workers and different kinds of workers, those who are exerting their body other than mental, physical, other than we can say mental body. ओके, ज्यांचे शारीरिक श्रम जास्त आहेत आणि बौद्धिक श्रम कमी आहेत, अशांना काय म्हणायचं, अनस्किल्ड लेबर म्हणायचं. स्किल लेबर ज्यांचे बौद्धिक श्रम जास्त आहेत आणि शारीरिक श्रम कमी आहेत, त्याला म्हणायचं स्किल लेबर. म्हणजे आपल्याला काय समजतं लेबर, तर लेबर काय आहे, एक लिव्हिंग फॅक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन आहे. लेबर इज अ ह्युमन रिसोर्स अँड इट इज अ लिव्हिंग फॅक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन विच having their own feelings, they are having their own likes and dislikes. Understood? Labor is a living factor of production and it is a very important factor of production in the production process. Or we can say labor is a perishable factor of production. We cannot separate the labor from the laborer. Labor is a heterogeneous factor of production because Education, training, experience, efficiency of working is differ from one labor to another labor. And that's why we can say that labor is a heterogeneous factor of production. Demand for labor is also derived demand because it depends on, they are interrelated with each other. Factors of production all are having derived demand because they are depends on each and every factor. Labor is an active factor of production because it puts to use other factors of production such as land and capital. Without labor, other factors of productions are meaningless. And that's why we can say that labor is an active factor of production. Labor is relatively immobile factor of production. Okay. And that's why this is the second major um, factor of production, that is labor, and labor gets wages or salary as a reward. It depends on such factors such as nature of work, skill of the worker, ability of the employer to pay, and cost of living. So on that four factors, wages or salaries of a labor depends. कामाच्या स्वरूपावर एम्प्लॉयर म्हणजे जो काम देणारा व्यक्ती आहे तो किती पे करू शकतो त्याच्या क्रयशक्तीवर, वर्करच्या स्किलवर, वर्कर म्हणजे मजुराची काय कौशल्य आहेत त्या कौशल्यावर त्याचं काम वेजेसचं स्वरूप अवलंबून असतं, आणि त्याचबरोबर कॉस्ट ऑफ लिव्हिंगवर. ओके, सो दिस इज द सेकंड मेजर फॅक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, दॅट इज लेबर. वन मोर टाइम, लेबर इज द human efforts both physically and mentally by people belonging to the working age group which is used in the process of production are said to be labor. Labor is paid remuneration in the forms of wages. Okay, any human efforts for which a reward or remuneration is not received cannot be called labor. Even the labor contributes to the production activities in the economy. That's why we can say that labor is any exertion of mind or body which is undergone partly or wholly with a view to earn some goods other than pleasure directly derived from their work. Labor is a living factor of production. Labor is a perishable factor of production. Labor is an active factor of production. Labor is a heterogeneous factor of production. Labor is an inseparable factor of production. There are two kinds of labor available in the market. The classification of labor broadly classified into two types: skilled laborer, unskilled labor. And when a labor is working, labor gets wages or salary as a reward for its services, which depends on the factors such as nature of work, ability of the employer to pay, skill of the worker, and cost of living, etc. I hope everyone is clear with the second major factor of production. Come to the third major factor of production, children, that is capital. Capital is very important in the production process. Without capital, we cannot do any production process. And that's why the meaning of capital is, in ordinary sense, the term capital means money. सर्वसाधारणपणे कॅपिटल म्हणजे काय तर भांडवल. तर कॅपिटलचा अर्थ काय होतो? पैसा. पण but in economics, the term capital refers to that part of wealth which is used for the further production of wealth. Therefore, all capital is wealth, but all wealth is not capital. One more time, in ordinary sense, capital means money. But in economics, the term capital refers to that part of our wealth which is used for the further production of wealth. That is called as capital. Therefore, all capital is wealth, but all wealth is not capital. Let me give one example. Suppose if a person is having 5 lakhs rupees with him and he wants to do the small business and he needs the capital of rupees 3 lakhs. Then what he will do? If he is having 5 lakhs rupees with him, he cannot go to take loan from the bank to start the business. What he will do? He will use some part of his wealth. Okay, he will take out 3 lakhs rupees from his wealth of 5 lakhs rupees. तो काय करेल व्यक्ती? त्याच्याकडे जे 5 लाख रुपये आहेत ती त्याची संपत्ती आहे. त्या संपत्तीमधला 3 लाखाचं तो काय करेल? काढून घेईल आणि ते 3 लाख तो काय करेल? त्याचा बिझनेस स्टार्ट करण्यासाठी यूज करेल. म्हणजेच कॅपिटल रेफर्स टू that part of our wealth which is used for the further production of wealth. असलेल्या संपत्ती पैकीच 3 लाख रुपये त्याने काढले आणि ते 3 लाख रुपये तो दुसरी संपत्ती निर्माण करण्यासाठी काय करतोय? यूज करतोय. ओके, आणि म्हणून ते 3 lakhs rupees काय झाले, इट विल बी कॅपिटल फॉर हिम. गॉट इट ऑल ऑफ यू? सो वन मोर टाइम, in ordinary sense, the term capital means money, but in economics, capital refers to that part of our wealth which is used for the further production of wealth. Therefore, all wealth, all capital is wealth, but all wealth is not capital. So we can say that capital is a man-made factor of production. Capital is also called as produce factor of production. Therefore, materials, machineries, tools and equipments, vehicles and buildings represents capital. Okay. Capital is a man-made factor of production. Capital is also called as produced factor of production. It includes materials, machineries, tools, equipments, vehicles, buildings. Okay, it presents the capital. I hope everyone is cleared with the meaning. Okay, so we can say that capital consists of those kind of wealth other than free gift of nature which yield income. As I said, capital is a man-made factor. It's not a free gift of nature. Man makes the capital. Okay, and that capital man is going to use for the further production of wealth. Okay, when a man is going to use some part of his wealth, when a man is going to use some part of his wealth which is used for the further production of the wealth, that time that wealth part will be our capital. जेव्हा एखादा व्यक्ती आपल्याकडे असणाऱ्या संपत्तीचा काही भाग दुसरी संपत्ती निर्माण करण्यासाठी उपयोगात आणतो, तेव्हा त्यास काय म्हणतात, भांडवल असे म्हणतात. आणि म्हणून कॅपिटल काय आहे तर मॅनमेड फॅक्टर आहे, मानवनिर्मित घटक समजला जातो. त्याचबरोबर कॅपिटलला काय म्हटलं जातं, प्रोड्यूस फॅक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, ज्याच्यामध्ये प्रामुख्याने कशाचा समावेश होतो, मटेरियलचा, मशिनरीचा, इक्विपमेंटचा, व्हेकल्सचा, बिल्डिंग्सचा. ओके, आणि म्हणून कॅपिटल काय आहे, कॅपिटल कन्सिस्ट ऑफ दोज काइंड ऑफ वेल्थ अदर दॅन फ्री गिफ्ट ऑफ nature. Capital is not a free gift of nature, but land is a free gift of nature. Okay, and that's why capital consists of those kind of wealth other than free gift of nature which yield the income. So to more about the capital, capital is a man-made factor because the man who produced the capital in the form of plant, machinery, buildings, vehicles. Okay, therefore capital is known as produce means of production. Capital is a passive factor of production because capital becomes productive only with the help of labor. Capital on its own cannot produce anything without the help of labor. Capital is a mobile factor of production because capital is the most mobile factor of production. It can be easily moved from one place to another place. It enjoys geographical as well as occupational mobility. It can be moved from one place to another place. It can be put for the several uses. But the main quality of capital is that capital is a depreciative factor of production because capital like machineries, buildings, etc. Are subject to wear and tear. Therefore, capital is subject to depreciation. The value of capital goes on decline. It requires continuous maintenance and repair costs. Capital is a durable factor of production. It lacks permanency. The supply of capital is always elastic. Elastic means changeable. It depends on the requirements. The supply of capital is always elastic. It depends on the requirements. The capital can be increased or decreased if there is more demand. Understood? Okay, come to the next part, that is capital lacks permanency. It increases productivity. And capital, when capital is working, capital gets interest as a reward. Okay, the interest is the reward of capital. Interest is the payment for the use of capital. It is the rate of return on money invested in the physical assets. Okay, this is the third major feature of this is the third major factor of production. Okay, come to the fourth major factor of production, that is the value of capital. Value of capital is the value of capital. It 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 is the value of ca Come to the fourth major factor of production, that is entrepreneur. Okay, entrepreneur is an important factor in the economic development of a nation. आपण असं म्हणू शकतो की संयोजक जो आहे तो संयोजक अतिशय महत्वाचा घटक समजला जातो जेव्हा आपण आर्थिक काय करत असतो विकासाची प्रक्रिया करत असतो. इट इट कॅन बी सेड दॅट एंटरप्रेन्योर इज नथिंग बट अ बिझनेसमॅन. Okay, and it can be said that entrepreneurship is what the modern world is all about. Without entrepreneurship, modern world would not be witnessed the products and services that are being understood, and that's why the entrepreneur acts as a important factor in the growth and development of the modern world. Okay, so entrepreneur plays an important role in the production process. We can say that entrepreneur is a person who organizes the business. He is the captain of the industry. Okay, and when entrepreneur is working, that time they are getting profit as a reward because entrepreneur is having a good quality which comprises risk. He must be risk taker, he must be a good organizer, he must be innovator, he must be good, he must be have technical knowledge, he must be energetic, he must be patientful person. Understood? Then he must have a good decision skills. Okay, he must have desire to achieve the goals. After that, he must be open minded person. He must to keep the human relationship because an entrepreneur comes in the contact with the employees, investors, customers, and other social groups. Business is a social activity and its success depends on the maintaining good relationship with employees, customers, creditors, and community. An entrepreneur who understands the psychology of people has good prospects in business. And that's why good communication skill also helpful to develop the business. Like Dhirubhai Ambani, we can say Anil Ambani, Ratan Tata, Birla, these are the good entrepreneurship. They are having ability to share the information with others. An entrepreneur who communicates effectively with employees and outsiders is more useful in the business than others. Okay, and that's why an entrepreneur, a person who is going to be the entrepreneur, a person who is going to be a businessman in the production process, he must be have such a qualities to develop his business to get economic development in his business. Okay, other qualities which he must be have like good time management. He must be a opportunity seeker. He must be a good discipline maintain person. He must be self-confident person. He must be a systematic planner. He must be a he must to keep his business secrecy. Leadership quality he must be understood. So all are the we can say that basic qualities of the entrepreneur. Okay, which is very important in the production process. Okay, children. So here we have learned about the economic activities. While learning the economic activities, we have learned about the production process. We have learned about the economic activities depends on the four factors such as production, distribution, exchange, and consumption. Production, while learning the production, we have learned about the land, second labor, third one capital, and fourth one entrepreneur. As I said earlier, land is a free gift of nature. Okay, in ordinary sense, land refers to surface of the earth, but in economics, land includes all natural resources which are available on the surface of the earth, above the surface of the earth, and below the surface of the earth. Okay, land is a free gift of nature. Okay, so while learning the land on the surface of the earth, we are getting farmland, forests, mountains, water, etc. Below the surface of the earth, like coal, petroleum, iron, gold, silver, etc. Above the surface of the earth, we are getting air, light, heat, etc. If in case of the second major factor of production, that is labor, as I said earlier, labor is any human efforts we are going to exert their mind and body. Okay, Labor is any human efforts, both physical and mental, by people belonging to working age group and which is used in the production process. Labor is paid remuneration in the forms of wages. Labor is an active factor of production. Labor is a living factor of production. Labor is a perishable factor of production. Labor is a heterogeneous factor of production. Labor gets derived demand. The supply of labor is relatively inelastic. Labor is inseparable factor of production. There are two kinds of labors available in the market: skilled labors and unskilled labor. And labor gets salary or wages of its services, which depends on nature of the earth, skill of the worker, ability of the employer to pay, and cost of living. Then we have seen third major factor of production, that is capital. Capital in ordinary sense, capital refers to money, but in economics, capital refers to that part of our wealth which is used for the further production of wealth. Therefore, all capital is wealth, but all wealth is not capital. Capital is a man-made factor of production. It is also known as produce means of production. It is also known as produce factors of production, which includes materials, machineries, tools, equipments, vehicles, buildings, etc. Okay, therefore we can say that capital is a man-made factor, capital is a passive factor, capital is a mobile factor, capital is a depreciative factor, capital is a durable factor. The supply of capital is elastic, capital lacks permanency, capital increases productivity of the firm, and when capital is working, capital is gets interest as a reward. Okay, and last we have learned the fourth major factor of production, that is entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a person who is the leader of the organization, who organizes the business. He must be a risk taker, he must be a good organizer, he must be a good innovator. Okay, he must be have technical knowledge, he must be patientful person, he must be energetic, he must have a decision making skill, open minded person. He must to keep human relationship, because human relationships are very important in the business with employees, investors, customers, and other social groups. He must have good communication skill, he must have good time management, he must be opportunity seeker, he must be a good discipliner, he must be a self-confident, he must be a systematic planner, etc. Okay, so here we have learned about the production. Okay, so completely we have finished here basic concepts of microeconomics such as want, goods and services, utility, value, wealth, personal income, personal disposable income, while learning economic activity, production, distribution, exchange, consumption. In production, we have learned land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. These are the four major factors of production. Okay, so here we will stop today. Okay, thank you very much all of you for attending the lecture. Thank you once again, children. Okay, thank you, sir. We will meet in the next lecture. Over to you, sir.